Hi there, I'm Tony Vidania. I'm a general contractor licensed in both California and Hawaii, and I've been building for over 35 years. In this video, we're going to show you how to save money, save time, reduce waste, and save electricity. It's everything that I like. And on top of that, show you how to do a modular building system so that you can build, in this case we're going to build a shed, but you could take this and build almost anything with it. This study was published in 1998 by the Natural Resources Defense Council. And it's just basically tells you how to reduce materials. One of the really cool things about it is that you have to cut very little. In fact, it's based on not cutting your sheets of plywood, so using that's the optimum part of this, and I'll get into that in a minute. The good thing is that this whole book is online now. You can just look up NRDC or Natural Resources Defense Council. But if you just watch this video, you're going to learn most of what you need to know. Okay. This video was done at my friend Pat and Wilson Rouse and Pat St. Ange in Oakland, California. What they're doing is they're creating an urban retreat center right in the middle of Oakland. And it's a great project. We'll tell you a little bit more about what they're doing at the end. But as you can see, they've got a whole farm going. Again, this is right in the middle of Oakland. It's a retreat center for people to be able to get away without having to even leave the city. So they invited me to Oakland to help them with some solar, as well as helping them build some modular sheds and a couple other things. And so there'll be a series of videos on what we're doing there as well. Okay, let's get started. This video is about Optimum Value Engineering, which is a fancy way of saying being frugal with the materials you use. I don't believe in widgets, so what we're going to do is do a practical application using Optimum Value Engineering, and we're going to make a shed, a 4-foot by 4-foot by 8-foot tall shed using 4 by 8 material and 2 by 4 by 8-foot Doug fir or hem fir if that's all you have. Pine will also work. You can cut it with a standard handsaw like this, or you can use one of these fancy little saws also. Or you could use a skill saw, but use that at your own risk. Most people have a skill saw or chop saw laying around. If you don't know how to use it, don't use it. Accidents happen. This will work. Alright, this is how you build a 3-walled 4-foot shed. As you can see, I have these studs. Oh, excuse me, not studs. Make sure you get 2 by 4 by 8 foot, not 2 by 4 by studs. Studs look very similar to 8-footers, but they're just short enough that they will not work. So make sure you're getting 2 by 4 by 8. As you can see, they are very similar in length. So for every wall, you need 3 studs, excuse me, 2 by 4 by 8s cut down to 93 inches. That's what I've done already here. And then you need a top plate and a bottom plate at 48 inches. That's for every wall. And so since we're going to be doing 3 walls, that means we're going to need 9 93-inch pieces and 6 48-inch pieces. So with our 4-foot top and bottom plate, remember we're only going to have 1 bottom plate and 1 top plate because we're using Optimum Value Engineering, and we're going to make a mark right there at 2 feet to accept the stud. Voila! Notice I've gone each side of the 2 feet 3/4 of an inch, and that is so that you have your stud fitting in between the marks, because your stud is 1.5 inches wide, so 3/4 of an inch on each side of 2 feet gives you your center of your board. Okay, so I've got these two boxes of nails, which are going to use for nailing the walls together, are 16D, which are 3.5 inches long. What I like to use are galvanized commons, and you can see the difference. Even without opening the box, you can see the commons are a lot thicker and more robust than the box. I don't even know why they make box galvanized nails, because they really are junky and they bend quite frequently. So make sure you get, if you can, for outdoor use, hot dipped galvanized common nails, and we're going to use 16Ds for nailing the ends of the walls together, and we're going to use 8Ds for nailing the plywood sheets together. Okay, so you're going to take those 2x4s that you cut down to 93 inches, and you're going to take the 2x4s that were cut at 48 inches, and just to make sure you understood, those were two of them I put together just to measure them. You separate those two 48-inch pieces and you nail them onto the 2x4s that you cut at 93 inches right here. And I'm not going to show you how to nail. You can learn that on your own. I will give you the advice I give all of my apprentices: don't choke up on the bat. Choking up, bad. Hammering, good. Okay, so selecting the plywood, I like to use 1/2 inch, although you can use 3/8 inch, and it's harder to find anything these days because they've now resorted to 32/2 of an inch. So you have to do the math. 19/32 is not quite 1/2 an inch. It's a little bit over. It's not quite 5/8 either. Same with 15/32. It's not quite 1/2 an inch, a little bit under, but not quite 3/8 either. So this would probably work fine, and the price is better. Now for the roof, you're going to need a 1/2 sheet of plywood. As you can see in these bins here, you could buy 1/2 sheets. They are 48 inches long and 48 inches wide. They originally started out as 96-inch pieces that they just cut in half, and they sell you for a little bit more than if you bought it two pieces. Two pieces as a whole, that is. So one piece being usually more affordable than buying the 2 halves. Emphasis on usually, not always. Any plywood that's sold in Lowe's, Home Depot, or at most lumber yards, they can cut down with this panel saw right here. So check your pricing. Like I said, for our project, we only need 1 sheet for the roof, maybe 1 for the floor, so you might just need a whole sheet. If you can cut it yourself, even better. Now notice that is AC plywood we're using. It's very nice plywood. It's got a few footballs in it, or cutouts, patched, as opposed to CD plywood. Okay, here they're making me a liar and they're actually calling it 5/8. But you can see this is CDX, and it's got some holes in it, and it's not treated like the ACX is. It just depends what you want. The price is better for the CDX than the ACX, and this is what you'll see and get in CDX. Just a lot of imperfections. There you go, there's a 15/32, and over here they're calling it 1/2 inch. And notice the price is higher because this is treated. You could usually tell the difference between treated and non-treated, and the treated is darker, in some cases very dark, whereas the untreated is usually pretty light. Okay, I've mentioned treatment a couple times, treated lumber, in this video, and it can be really confusing. Mostly what I'm talking about is treatment for bugs and weather, and it just depends on who you talk to about the validity of all that. In fact, look for a video that we're going to do called Selling Snow to the Eskimos, because there's a long history on treatment, and some of it is a little bit controversial. But let's not get into that now. For purposes of this video, treatment means treating for bugs and weather. Okay, thanks. Sorry for the confusion. I apologize for my industry. This is 0.43 inch, which is somewhere between 3/8 and ½ inch OSB. And OSB is the stuff that stands for something stranded board. Can't remember right now. And this stuff works too, but again, in wet areas, not very good. Turns into a bunch of wood chips in high precipitous areas, so be careful. In fact, this is why you don't find OSB treated, because it can't be soaked for any length of time. And you're going to get those people out there telling me that you can get it treated. Maybe you're right, but don't confuse that with oversprayed paint, which is what this is right here. Simpson Hardware has a really good web page that explains the different types of treatment and even gets into the galvanized process. So if you're interested in that, take a look at their website. Okay, here we go, try it again. So you just get one corner good, yeah. Put a nail in it, with your fingers, there you go. Now you just line up the other corner.
Line it up.
Yeah, it's going to take some pulling. There you go.
And then put a nail in that one.
And put a nail in that one. And then we're just assuming that the wood is square. And usually plywood is, although sometimes it isn't. Okay. Then you do the same thing here. When you get your end good over there now. Look at it, all lines up now. There you go. So here I got my volunteer, Emilio. And he's putting those nails about every 12 inches on the skin. Yeah, Emilio was voluntold. And as you can see, we snapped a line down the middle of the plywood. And basically you could just go by where you put your nails. The nails are 24 inch on center, where your studs are. And that's all you got to do is follow that. Okay, after you've done that process 3 times, you have your 3 walls for your shed. Now all you need to do is make the roof. And to make the roof, what you do is you cut 3 2x4s to 45 inches. 3 2x4s at 45. Those are going to be your rafters for your wall, excuse me. Stud on the brain. And then you're going to use 2 48-inch plates, just like you did the first time. And that's where you're going to use your half sheet. Okay, so you've had to do very little cutting, just little pieces on the ends of your 2x4s. You haven't had to cut any plywood, unless you had to cut your half sheet for your roof. But if you got that at the store, they could have done that for you. The fringe benefit for the planet is that there's nothing going to the landfill except for little tiny pieces of wood. Now the next part that I like is that we're reusing old pallets. I've got another video where we're building a house out of pallets. Check that out. But pallets are one of those things that people literally throw away. They do end up as mulch or in landfill. So go find some pallets. People are trying to get rid of them and use them for the floor for your shed. This is how you do it. So as you can see, we managed to find some pallets that are actually kind of nice, and so we use those for the floor. However, if you don't have nice pallets, they're kind of junky, then you just need to use that leftover half sheet of plywood that went out onto the roof. Then, having somebody help you hold these together, you put the walls on the sides. I've already set a couple screws in here to help hold them up since I'm by myself. And then you screw them in.
1,
I'd put a minimum of 4 screws in every board, a minimum, and same thing, 4 screws in every board going down into the pallet. And then as you can see up here, I just grabbed a piece of wood that they use for stacking the lumber on and put it across the front to give it a slope. And there you go. And the very back part there, we'll need to cover that up with whatever we use for our roofing. But right now, you've got a shed.